All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a figure who's, well, she's incredibly fascinating and super controversial, and she's just exploding across Mexico. Imagine a saint who the Vatican absolutely condemns, but millions, and I mean millions, of people worship. We're talking about Santa Muerte, the Holy Death.
Yeah, that quote says it all, doesn't it? Men who fear no one tremble before her. That right there, that's the core of her power. She has this deep, profound respect, especially from people living on the fringes, the ones outside the law. And here's the key thing to get. They don't see her as evil, not at all. They see her as incorruptible.
And this is where things get really wild. Look at this contrast. On one hand, you have the Vatican calling her satanic, blasphemy, occult, basically the enemy of Christ. But then you look at what her followers are asking for. Are they asking for damnation? No. They're asking for justice, for love, for money. I mean, things we can all relate to. And yeah, okay, sometimes revenge.
So the big question is, where did she even come from? Well, the answer isn't simple. It's this really fascinating mix of the ancient world and some very, very modern problems.
Basically, there are two main theories, two camps, if you will. Her followers, they'll tell you she goes way, way back, like ancient. They see her as a direct link to Mictlantecutli, the Aztec god of the dead, so totally pre-Christian roots. But then you have scholars and anthropologists. They've got a different take. They trace her beginnings to much more recently, like the 1980s, starting out as this quiet, private thing among traditional female healers.
And this image? Wow. This is a perfect example of how Santa Muerte devotion works. You take something incredibly famous from Catholicism, right? Michelangelo's Pietà, but instead of the Virgin Mary holding Jesus, it's the skeletal Holy Death. It's this incredible, powerful mashup of Catholic and indigenous ideas, and it creates something totally new. You can imagine why this is, let's just say, deeply unsettling for the church.
What's crazy is how fast this all happened. I mean, she went from a private ritual to a full-blown public religion in the blink of an eye. It started in the quiet homes of healers, then it spread into the prisons, and that's a big deal. Inmates started feeling like the traditional saints just weren't cutting it anymore. But the real explosion? That was in 2001. A woman named Doña Cuesa puts this life-size statue outside her house, and boom, this once secret faith was suddenly out in the open for everyone to see.
And that explosive growth, it's tied directly to something huge happening in Mexico. A deep, profound crisis of trust in pretty much all of its institutions.
43. Just that number. For so many people in Mexico, this number is a turning point. It's more than just a number. It's a symbol of a deep national wound.
It's the story of 43 students from a teacher's college. In 2014, they were on their way to a protest. Local police intercepted them and allegedly just handed them over to a criminal cartel. They were never, ever seen again. This was a massive national trauma, and it just ripped the lid off this terrifying level of corruption.
So think about it. If you can't trust the police to protect you, if you can't trust the government to get you justice, if the entire system feels completely broken, what do? Where do you possibly turn?
Well, for somewhere between 2 and 5 million people in Mexico, the answer is Santa Muerte. It makes sense, right? When the institutions of this world fail you, you start looking for protection in the next. She stands for a kind of justice that you can't bribe, that you can't intimidate.
And that's why she's so incredibly appealing to people on the margins of society. Her promise, it's really simple. She accepts everybody, period. No questions asked. And you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to Doña Queta. She's kind of like the high priestess of the movement. She lays it out pretty bluntly. She says, if there are narcos here, great. In regular churches, prostitutes aren't allowed in. But here, everybody can come in. The church might judge you, but Santa Muerte, she doesn't.
Now let's go inside Mexico's prisons. For the inmates there, she is a huge protector. I mean, these are people who feel totally abandoned by the system, maybe even by God. And in this incredibly violent and uncertain place, she offers them something priceless, a feeling of tranquility, of peace.
It's the same for the LGBTQ community, especially transgender sex workers. They face extreme danger on the streets every single day. For them, she is like a spiritual shield, a constant companion in a world that can be really isolating and hostile.
Okay, so this brings us to what might seem like a huge contradiction, a paradox. People don't worship death because they want to die. No, it's the exact opposite.
See, her followers ask her for very specific things that are all about living. And the color of her robe is key. It's like a code for what you're asking for. You want love and passion? You go with red. Need help with money or business? That's gold. And the black robe? That's the most powerful one. That's for ultimate protection.
So, let's be super clear. The whole point isn't to glorify dying. It's to get over the fear of it. The thinking is, if you can embrace the one thing that's absolutely certain in life, well, then you can live more fully, more freely, right here and now, without being afraid.
And Doña Queta, her most famous priestess, puts it perfectly. She says, "I don't want to live with fear, I want to live with dignity." In a world that's so full of danger, this faith gives people a way to face life and death on their own terms.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought, right? Think about it. Santa Muerte comes for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, a saint or a sinner. So the belief is, if you praise her now, do you really have anything to fear when she finally shows up for you?